When they work, automatic SVG conversion tools like Trace Bitmap are great for converting designs for your laser projects. But sometimes, for some images, they just don't give good results. Sometimes the image you're starting with has really low resolution, or it has precise shapes that you really need to be perfect, or you might have text in the image that you need to be able to edit later. And sometimes, and this happens a lot with AI generated images, you might have distorted parts that need rebuilding. In cases like this, you might need a more manual approach. In this video, I'll show you how to convert these types of images to SVG in Inkscape manually. Now, there are two manual approaches that I typically use for this. One of them is rebuilding the image with shapes and fonts, and the other is using drawing tools in Inkscape. Usually, you're going to need to use a hybrid of both, but in this video, I'm going to focus on just rebuilding with shapes and fonts. The next video will cover drawing using Inkscape's drawing tools. If you're new here, welcome to Laser Focus, where I discuss all things laser cutting and engraving. Okay, so here we have a simple black and white coffee label. At first glance, this seems like it would work just fine using Trace Bitmap or any other automatic SVG conversion tool. It meets all of the basic criteria. It has high contrast, it has clearly defined edges, it doesn't have any shading, and it has a clear background. And technically, it does convert. I can run it through Trace Bitmap and get an SVG version of the label like this. And by the way, if you need a crash course on Trace Bitmap, Inkscape's automatic SVG conversion tool, I have an overview video that will get you up to speed, and I'll link that below. So let's look at this more closely, because just converting something to an SVG doesn't necessarily mean it's now clean and perfect and ready for your laser cutter. Honestly, I'm waiting for a day when I can just click a button like this and exactly what I need will magically appear, but we are not there yet. So these are supposed to be circles, but because I started with a pixelated raster image, they are now misshapen blobs. And this star here, it's not terrible, but you know it's supposed to be a perfect star. And so that makes these slight distortions here really unprofessional looking. And the lines here are uneven, and so are the edges of these borders. And this text is terrible. It's inconsistent, it's rounded in some places, but not in others for the same letter. The letters look different. So when the label is small, this kind of stuff doesn't really matter too much, but if you look at it closely or you need a larger version, it's going to become more obvious, and it doesn't look great. And the other thing with this text is that it's not editable. So these letters are all outlined paths. I can edit the nodes with the node tool here, but I can't actually change the font or what the text actually says. Now you could try cleaning this up by adjusting nodes, but it would take forever and you wouldn't really get good results anyway because they wouldn't be precise shapes. Things won't be symmetrical the way they should be, and it's going to take a lot of time. I talked more about these kind of problems in a previous video, so check that out if you want to know more about cases where Trace Bitmap and other automatic conversion tools fall short. For these types of cases, the better approach is to rebuild the image. So let's start by looking at simple shapes. The first thing I want to do is set this image up as a template so that I can layer the new stuff on top of it. I'm going to move our Trace Bitmap result up here so we can compare it later, and I'm going to make this larger, and then I'm going to go over to my fill and stroke options here, and under fill, I'm clicking this solid square, and I get this color settings wheel. Just at the bottom here, there's this opacity slider, and I'm going to set it down to about, I think 30 looks good. And now I'm going to go back to my layers panel and just lock this layer. And now I can't mess it up, but I can still have it here so I know what I need to make and where it needs to go. Now I'm going to create a new layer and work in this layer, and I want it to be darker, but not completely solid. So I'm leaving this at about 75% opacity. Okay, now let's look at the label and see what makes sense to recreate from simple shapes. We can see all these little circles here that converted really poorly. We can definitely replace those pretty easily. We can also replace this star here with a new one and these circles here over the coffee cup as well. We can also do these lines here as well as the coffee beans. So these are the things that we're going to tackle first with simple shapes, and then we'll deal with the text and these larger shapes later. Okay, so let's do all the circles first. They became blobs in the original Trace Bitmap attempt, so we want to rebuild these into precise circles. So for these circles, we're just going to use the ellipse tool here and just draw a small circle. I'm holding down Control on my keyboard to make sure that it's a perfect circle. And now if I double click the circle, I can see some settings up here. For all the shapes that we go over in this video, there are specific adjustments that you can make that will give you some more options. And I'm not going to go over all of them here, but I do recommend playing around with them to see what you have available to you when you're designing in Inkscape. But for our purposes, we just need a simple circle. And now I'm going to just duplicate it and place it along my template. Now there is a quicker way to do this in Inkscape using a live path effect, but I'm not going to get into that here. And I've just gone ahead and added these circles based on the template. And now I'm going to hide hide and lock this layer so that it doesn't get in my way while I'm working on the rest of it. And just to finish up with all the circles, I use the same ellipse tool to recreate these circles over the steam of the coffee cup. So now we've got all the circles done. So now let's look at this star. Again, if we look at the original, it's actually not terrible, but it's also not perfect. We can do better using a simple shape. So for this, I'm selecting the star polygon tool here, and I'm just going to draw a normal star here. Now for this one, there are a bunch of fun adjustments that you can make. Here you can drag this and adjust how pointy the star is, or you can change the depths of the indents like this, and you can also kind of twist it around to create this really fun ninja star type thing. And then up here, you can change the number of points on the star and also the spoke ratio and the roundedness of the points. If you push this one up or down, you can get some really cool shapes. And then here you can also change it to a polygon version, and that has its own settings here. So now let's go back to our star. We just want to make it look as close to the template as possible. So it's a normal 5-point star, and I'm just adjusting it, and there we go. Now let's hide and lock this layer. Okay, now onto these lines here. Here's how they looked coming out of Trace Bitmap, so they definitely need to be rebuilt. Now for these, I'm going to use rectangles. You could draw these as stroked lines with the drawing tool, but since we're using shapes in this video, we'll use the rectangle and save the drawing for the next video. So I'll just select the rectangle tool here, and then I'm going to draw this really thin rectangle here. And because these lines should be the same, I'm just going to copy this and drag it over. Now for the rectangle, the main adjustment that you might find useful is the rounded corners. You can adjust them on the rectangle like this or up here. We're going to use these to round out the ends of our lines. All right, onwards to the coffee beans. Now these look a little bit more complicated, but they're still pretty simple. You can see up here in the original that they're not as clean as they could be, so we can fix these. So I'm going to use the ellipse tool again, but for this one, I'm going to make it more of an oval than a circle. And so I'm just creating an oval and adjusting it to the right angle. And now we're going to use this cool little feature. This erase tool here is really useful. I'm going to make it a thickness of about 40, and then I can just drag it along this bean line here, and it splits them up into two shapes. So I'm just going to create a copy of this bean and put it on the other side. And now we've got our rebuilt coffee beans. All right, so we've rebuilt what we could using simple shapes, and here's where we're at now. We still have to do the text and the larger border shapes, and we're going to do those next. In this section, I'm going to talk about how we can use simple shapes together to create more complex custom shapes. So I'm going to start with this outer label shape here. So to do this, I'm going to first use the rectangle tool and draw a rectangle over the template. And I'm just going to align the edges here. One thing that I need to make sure that I do here is line up the paths of the shapes that I draw with the middle of the black border in the template. You're going to see why this is important later. Next, I'm going to use the ellipse tool here to create a large circle in the middle of this rectangle. I'm holding control so that it stays a perfect circle. And again, I'm making sure to line the circle path up with the middle of the template border. And I'm also centering it with the rectangle so that everything is symmetrical. Now we've got these two bumps on the sides, so I'm going to use the ellipse tool again to make what looks a little bit more like an oval shape here. And again, just aligning it so that it overlaps with the template. And I'm going to make a copy and just paste it on the other side. And again, just making sure that they're aligned with the rectangle and with each other. So now I have a rectangle, the center circle here, and two side ovals. Now combined, we can see that they make the shape of this label. So we want to merge them together. Now there are a couple of ways to do this in Inkscape. The first is to use this shape builder tool here. I'm going to show you what it does, and I'll use these simple shapes to demonstrate. So here's a rectangle and a circle. If I select both of these shapes and then I click the shape builder tool, Inkscape is going to isolate the selected shapes, and now I can decide what I want to combine here into a single shape. When I drag my mouse across the parts I want to combine and then I press enter, I'm going to turn them into a single fused shape. Now the other way to do this is using path operations. So if we go up here to path and look at this drop down, you're going to see a bunch of path operations listed here. These are tools that let you manipulate and create shapes based on how the shapes or parts of the shapes overlap. There are a whole bunch of them listed here, and they're really useful for different things, but I'm not going to explain all of them right now, just the ones that I end up using. I did find a really great full explainer video that breaks down all of these really clearly if you want to go deeper with it. Now for combining shapes, the one I'm going to use here is union. So union takes overlapping shapes and it merges them into one shape, which is exactly what we want to do here. So if I select this rectangle and circle and then I go to path and union, they become a single shape. Okay, so let's go back to our label here. I'm selecting all of these shapes because we want to merge them all into one, and I'm going to go path union, and now we have one solid shape for our label that almost matches the original image. The only difference in the shape is the corners, so I'm going to remove them using another path operation. So here I'm adding a smaller circle to this corner, and the idea is that I'm going to subtract it from the shape. So I'm just making sure it's aligned properly, and then I'm creating 3 more for each of the corners. Okay, now for this one, I'm going to use the path operation that's called difference. So this one subtracts the top shape from the shape underneath it. So if we look at our example here, the rectangle is on top of the circle. If I select them both and apply this operation, we can see that the rectangle shape got cut out of the circle. And on the other hand, here the rectangle is under the circle. So if I do the same thing, this time the part of the circle shape that overlaps gets cut out of the rectangle. So now let's go back to our label. These circles are on top of the main label, so that's good. And I'm going to select the label and this circle here and apply difference, and we can see that it punched out the circle. So I'm just going to repeat this for the other 3, and now we have our main label shape. Next, I'm going to turn this into an outline since it's not supposed to be filled in. I can do that by selecting the shape and going to fill in stroke up here, and under stroke paint, I'm turning on the stroke by clicking this red box. And now I'm going to go to the fill tab and remove the fill so that we can see it properly. So this is why we needed our path to sit in the middle of the border. When I add and adjust the stroke, it thickens equally on both sides of the line. So for the line to sit properly over our template line, we needed the path in the middle of it. So I'm trying to match the thickness here with the thickness of the template, and this is probably about good. All right, and now we have our label outline. And now the last thing we need to do in this section is the inner border. Now Inkscape does have an offset tool that I tried, but it didn't work very well for this shape, so I'm going to use a different approach. Instead, I'm going to use the same method that we just used, rebuilding using the same shapes except for the 2 side bumps to get us most of the way there. And so I've gone and done that, and I've already adjusted the thickness to match the original image, but we need to make a few more changes. We have these gaps on the sides here that separate it into top and bottom pieces. So for this, I'm going to use another path operation from up here. This one is called cut path, and it slices a path. That's exactly what we want here to break up this line. And so to use it, I'm just going to draw a rectangle here over the area that I want the gap, and it needs to be on top. And I'm just checking to make sure it's properly aligned with where the template line stops. And I'm going to copy this and paste it in the same spot on the other side. And now I'm selecting the border path and one of the rectangles. And when I apply the cut path operation, it splits the border exactly where the rectangle was. And so now I'm just going to do this on the other side. Now I'm keeping these borders as strokes right now because it allows me to adjust the thickness of the stroke if I need to. But when I'm ready to finalize the file, I would probably want to convert the strokes into actual shapes so that the thickness becomes part of the design. Right now, even though we can see a difference between the thickness of these lines, the laser cutter is not going to see the difference. It's only going to see the single vector path that creates this line. So when I'm ready to work with this in my laser software, I would use this stroke to path function here under path. Just know that once you do this, you can't change the thickness of the line anymore. Now this stuff with single paths and shape outlines is really confusing. So if you want a quick breakdown, see this video. I'm going to leave a link in the description. Okay, and here we've got our label borders built as custom shapes by doing a bunch of shape ninja stuff. Okay, so we're almost done and just have to recreate the text now. As we saw, this text up here looks terrible and it's not editable, so we're going to fix this. First, let's start with the simple text that's just a straight line. I'm going to do the main branding first. For this, I'm selecting the text tool here, and then I can just put this anywhere and type the name. And now I already spent some time figuring out my font types and their sizes, but you might need to do some trial and error for that if you don't know your font or size. And if you got the image from an AI tool, it might not be a real font, so you're going to have to use the closest match you can find. In my case, I'm using Bernard, and I already know the size, so I've just entered that here. And for this, I also needed to elongate the font a bit so that it matches the template. And there we go. That looks pretty good. And as usual, I'm going to hide and lock this. And next we have medium roast. So this is the same process. So I'm just going to speed through it. I needed to use some extra character spacing here to get things to line up. And now again, I'm just going to hide and lock this layer as well. Now this last one is a little bit more tricky. Inkscape has some different effects that you can use on the text, and this arch shape here is one of them. And it looks really fancy, but it's pretty simple to do. So I'm going to start by typing small batch roasters, and I already know my font and size, and so I'm just going to set those. And now I'm using the ellipse tool to create a circle. Now the top of the circle needs to align with the curve curve of the text in the template. So I just need to adjust the circle so that it lines up perfectly and is the right size. And then I want to make sure both of these are centered to the page so that everything is properly formatted. And I'm also just going to put the text on the top layer so that it's easier for me to select and work with. And now to get the text to actually align along the path of the circle, we go to text and put on path. And so it aligns the text, but we can see that it's sideways. And so I'm going to select only the circle here, and I'm going to rotate it 90 degrees. Now I'm holding control down so that I can rotate it exactly 90 degrees. And so now it is positioned correctly. We can see that I do need to make some adjustments just so that everything lines up. And so that's what I'm doing. And then that's it. And so that's done. And now I'm going to group the circle and text together and label it so that I keep it organized. Now, while I'm working, I can hide the circle, but I do need to keep it here to make sure that the text remains editable. If I delete the circle like this, you can see that the text reverts back to its normal shape. And so I can't delete the circle and keep the text arched. And so that's all of our text rebuilt with clean edges, and all of it can be edited if I need to make changes later. Now, I would keep this version as my editable working file because I can change the wording, the font, I can change spacing and placement and anything else that we've worked on. But this is not the version that I would bring directly into my laser software. Before exporting the final SVG, I would need to convert the text into vector paths. Right now, if you select the node tool, you can see that there are no vector paths here. It's just live text. And so I'm going to show you how to prepare the text for laser software. So for the straight text fields, like the main brand and the medium roast, just select the text and go to path, object to path. And so now we can see all these nodes, which tell us that it's been converted to vector paths. It's no longer editable the way it was, which is why you would want to keep a duplicate of the original version for future changes. And I'm just going to speed through the same process here for this text here. Now for the arch text, it's almost the same process, except I need to deal with this massive circle. So right now I can't delete the circle because we know that it reverts back to straight text. So first, what I need to do is select the arch text only and use path, object to path to convert it to vectors. And now that it's converted to vectors, I can select the circle and delete it. Okay, so now all of our text is ready for use with laser software. And with that, our recreated design is done, except that it's not, because we still have one section left, and that's this coffee mug and its steam. But let's take a look at this. It's a more complex shape, and it's not really a good candidate for rebuilding with shapes and fonts. For this, I would rebuild it using Inkscape's drawing tools, which is the topic of the next video, so I'm going to finish this part up there. For right now, let's finish up with one last thing: how to get this image out of Inkscape and into your laser software properly. Now, it's best to save this as an Inkscape SVG, and then every time you want to create a variation of the image, you would copy the file and work from that. This way, you're going to keep your editable version safe and uncluttered. Now, in order to save it as an SVG to bring into laser software when you're ready to use it, you want to delete everything except for the prepared design. And then, just like we talked about earlier, you want to convert all of your text using path, object to path, and then convert all of your borders and strokes to shapes using path, stroke to path. And then you also want to make sure that all of your layers are at 100% opacity, since we were working at 75%. And then to save it, go to File, Save As, and then this time save it as a plain SVG. That's going to be the one you bring into your laser software. And when you do, it's going to look something like this. This is Xtool Studio. So you can see that we've got all of the layers here, and you can apply different settings to them. You can isolate them individually. You can hide and unhide them. Everything's ready for you to work with. So we were able to rebuild almost all of the design using shapes and fonts. And when we compare our new version to the original Trace Bitmap result, we can see that all of our edges and shapes are pristine in the rebuilt version, which is a vast improvement on the one that we generated earlier through Inkscape's automatic SVG conversion tool, Trace Bitmap. Our text is no longer uneven and distorted, and we have no blobs or uneven edges. So now you know one approach to manually converting difficult images to SVG. And that'll often get you part of the way there, but to really be able to tackle any image conversion, it helps to learn Inkscape's drawing tools. You're usually going to use a combination of both of these when you manually convert images. If you want to add drawing tools to your arsenal, join me in the next video.